Good morning and happy Thanksgiving from Northwestern Ontario. We have had a lot of wind that took down a lot of our leaves, but we still have some beautiful neon oranges. That's kind of our customary fall color. We don't have a lot of red. We have red in the undergrowth and our striped maples and bush honeysuckles and various other things on the ground. So if you want to see pictures of autumn here in Red Lake, Ontario, please visit me on Instagram. I think I'm just at Sarah Raymerdine there. And I'm also on Facebook at Northern Impressions by Sarah. So here's my little business logo. Somebody said they thought they didn't recognize this was an N and this was an I. And so then they just thought it was all BS. And so I hope that's not a bad joke for you this morning. I thought it was a little bit funny. It made me laugh. Anyhow, so what I like to do mostly is work in watercolor and mostly work from nature. So I wanted to do a little series on the possibilities for creating wonderful art with artist grade professional paints on a budget. And if I had known a lot of these things, I could have saved myself a great deal of money in the beginning of my journey in watercolor. And I just thought it might be helpful for you. So let me know, give me a like if this gives you some value, and visit the other videos in this little series. So far, I think I've talked about 2 options from Core. And today I wanted to talk about Sennelier. This little tin box is actually a pretty big tin box, and it came with 5 tubes of 10 mils of color. Now, I'm missing one of the tubes because I used it all up, but there is the Ultramarine Deep from Sennelier that I'm going to demonstrate for you today. So some of the colors in this set are a little perhaps unusual, but we do have 3 primaries in the Ultramarine Deep, the bright red, and the lemon yellow. Then we have an earthy orange, and it's called Chinese orange. And then we have a Payne's gray. So you have a lot of options with these, and I wanted to show you what these paints look like on various types of paper. So you'll find that even within one make of paper, this is from Kadi. It's a 100% recycled paper made from cotton. They have a textile factory and they recycle the cotton that they don't use in their fabric business by making watercolor paper. And this is a rough, thick version of their paper, and I think this is just called cold press, but you can see how the colors look different even from one surface, although the paper's 100% cotton and it's just a different texture, so the color looks different. So then what I wanted to do on camera live is to show you what these colors look like on arches or arche, 100% cotton cold press paper. So here is what we're going to do today, but I thought I'd just give you a close up. This is a mixing wheel that I made with the primaries, the lemon yellow, the bright red, and the ultramarine deep, and then mixing the secondary colors. However, there's a secondary color already in here included, which is the Chinese orange. Then their neutral or their Payne's gray, I just put separately there. So what's really cool about this is in September, and then I just checked again today, it's now October, at deseras.ca. This little set is $22.99. I want you to know that you do not need to buy a set with 24 colors or 12 colors or even 6 colors. You could buy a set of 3, but this is 5 colors for only $22.99 Canadian, which is a steal of a deal, and they are an international company, originally French, I believe, so I'm sure you can get them in Europe. And this is a really good option. I just think that a lot of people feel they have to spend a lot in order to get started with watercolor, and that's not true. I think that you should always buy artist grade colors if you can, but you only need to buy 3 for a start. And then you could buy warm primaries to start or cool primaries, and then you could add the opposite so that you have both a warm and a cool. But to start, even just 3 colors will work fine. I think learning to mix your colors and knowing how they work is probably the most important thing. And I feel that so many people have so many colors that they don't paint because they're overwhelmed. And I think it's easier to just learn with a few colors, learn what they can make, and then eventually you can get into some other colors for their specific properties. All right, so without further ado, here's one other favorite Sennelier that I bought, and it's called Rose Madder Lake. And it's one of the brightest pinks. And I love the bright pinks or the magentas because I tend to do a lot of floral subjects. Anyway, it's just a favorite color. And then here's Yellow Lake, which is a common color that you'll find in a very, very light fast, much more light fast than this lemon yellow. And it has a brown mass tone. It actually looks brown on the palette, but it glows so beautifully and it creates wonderful mixes. So if I were going to just buy a few colors, I would buy this set for $23. And if you really want to add some pinks that you can't mix yourself, then this Rose Madder Lake would be awesome. And then this Yellow Lake would add another wonderful layer of different greens and oranges that you could mix. So it would be an awesome set. All right, so but the set by itself is awesome. It's wonderful. So let's just paint this out, okay? Now, I'm just gonna make these wet. I have 3 jars of water. I just use recycled food jars, quart jars, and I got 3 of them. One for the first dirty mix, and another for a slightly cleaner rinse. And then a third one to drop clean paint on my colors. So clean water on my colors to keep them fresh and clean. Boy, I can't talk today. I apologize. And I'm not going to edit this out because I'm tired. I had a lot of trouble. I couldn't get my microphone to work today. So here we are, finally here. Let's get this done. All right. So the tubes have an interesting bigger cap. So they're a little bit easier perhaps to open than some. You know, sometimes these little caps on the watercolor tubes are a bit hard to work with. So let's see what this looks like. Isn't that beautiful? The pigment is P for pigment, Y for yellow, and 3 is the number of the pigment. So here they call it lemon yellow. It is what it is, a bright, cool yellow. Again, not as light fast as I might like. So there are other options, but it's good enough. It's professional grade. So I always start with the yellow because the yellow is the easiest to contaminate with other colors. And now I had already on my butcher enamel block tray here, I had some of that Chinese orange. So it is good to have, you know, earthy colors on your palette, and you can mix them, but they've already put 3 pigments in this mix, I think. So to me, usually I would consider this not a mixing color because when you have so many pigments included, you can make mud pretty fast if you try mixing something else with it. So they do have some information on the tube here. They say it's PY150, which is that Yellow Lake that I showed you. That was an excellent mixing yellow. and PR209, which is usually called quinacridone scarlet. So it's a coral red. And then PBR23, which is a brown. So it's a nice color, but I wouldn't mix it with too many others because you might get something a little bit muddy and not as pretty as you would like. So my goal usually when I work with paints is to have really transparent single pigments so that I can mix and I can glaze. And glazing is one of the hallmarks of my technique. I really love to layer colors one over the other. And in order to do that, you do need very transparent, non-granulating colors. So those, you'll find those are my favorites. And I'm not telling you anything about the pigment on this bright red from Sennelier because they don't tell me anything about that. So there's nothing on their website and there's nothing on the tube. So for me, that is not a selling point. I don't like that, but it's still a very pretty color. So you can see it here. Isn't that pretty? And here we've got the 3 colors painted out already. All right, so let's go to the ultramarine blue. Look at how pretty that is. So I suppose you hear my budgies. They're rescue budgies. And they came to our house because the people who had them didn't feel that they could take the best care of them. So they are my companions here, and they make a racket, but I enjoy them. So I hope you don't mind. And they're typically pretty talky in the morning. This morning time is a very talkative time. And it's mostly Pablo, the boy, who talks the most. And he is largely green. So here I am painting green and talking about Pablo, the green bird. So you can mix a range of greens. What will happen is that your mixtures are going to be granulating, especially if you add enough water to make granulation possible. So you're going to have a textured green when you make a green with ultramarine blue. And there I've just added a little more yellow. Now I'll add a little more blue. So you can play with these, make a range of colors, see what you like. And when you're doing a painting, usually you do modify your green. You increase the blue and you increase the yellow based on the temperature of the light on your subject. So if it's in shadow or farther away, it tends to have a little more blue. If it's in the sun, it's a bit lighter and it has more yellow to it. So it is good to be able to mix your own greens and vary their shade. Now, this Payne's gray is not a mixing color. It's, again, a conglomeration of a large number of pigments, which you can tell is not my favorite thing. But anyway, so PV19 is often quinacridone rose, so a red, and then PB15-1 is a phthalo blue, and PBK7 is a black pigment. So that's what we have going on there. And I'm just going to put a dot separately. In general, some people use Payne's gray to neutralize colors, but I think I'd challenge you to not do that and to mix your own darks. However, Payne's Gray can come in handy. It just often is a little too dark and it sort of zaps the life out of your watercolor. And it's not really nice mixed with your paints. So yeah, I think it's something to keep in mind to learn to mix your colors and not incorporate black very often if you can help it. All right, so let's mix the red and the blue and see what kind of a purple we can come up with. So there we've got something pretty pretty. Okay, so you can vary the amounts of the red and the blue and get lots of different shades. So that's why mixing colors is so much fun. And since we already had a orange paint, I didn't actually mix orange, but I think we should do that. I think we should mix the yellow and the red and make an orange just for some fun to see what you can do with these colors. And the orange that I'm mixing right now is really muted looking. Let's see if we can add a little more. This is a well-loved color because it's almost entirely gone. And I think this is my second set of these paints because they're just, you know, quite an unbelievable price point. So very good to stock up on because particularly ultramarine blue is something that I use so often. And so here we've got, you know, just a neutralized yellow. And then we'll add a little more red to a part of that pile. And there you go. So there really isn't any need for Chinese orange in this set that I can tell because you can mix something almost identical just from the two colors adjacent on the wheel. But I guess it's another option, right? And another thing to experiment with. So for $23, you can't go wrong. This is a great set. And I just want to make clear that I am not sponsored in any way. I'm just looking at what's available on the market in Canada because I think that would provide some value to you. So if this did give you some value, give me a thumbs up if you please. And I hope you have a great Canadian Thanksgiving this weekend and have fun with your family and a nice meal. Take care.